All right, today we are diving deep into one of the most persistent and, let's be honest, captivating conspiracy theories out there. We are going to unpack the whole idea of hidden symbols in a secret society that's supposedly pulling the strings from behind the curtain, the Illuminati.
But first, let me ask you something. Are you being controlled by symbols you see every single day? I mean, really think about it. Corporate logos, images in the media, even political emblems. They're not just decorations. The theory goes they are designed to tap into something deeper, to influence how you feel and what you do, all without you ever consciously thinking about it.
You see, the whole premise of this theory really comes down to a little bit of brain science. When you see a symbol, it zips right past the logical part of your brain and goes straight for what's called the limbic system. You might have heard of it as the lizard brain. It's the old, primal part that handles gut feelings, emotion, and memory. It gets the message instantly, way before you've had time to think it through. And that makes symbols an incredibly powerful, totally subconscious language.
And this is where the theory we're digging into today really takes hold. It alleges that one particular group has completely mastered this hidden language of symbols. And for centuries, they've been using it to communicate with each other, to influence all of us, and to slowly, quietly shape the world from the shadows. Of course, I'm talking about the Illuminati.
So, what exactly is this hidden language? Let's start decoding some of the major symbols this alleged secret society supposedly uses to communicate right out in the open, hiding in plain sight.
Okay, think of this as the basic vocabulary. According to the theory, the pyramid is a big one. It's supposed to represent ancient power, surveillance, and some kind of grand project that's still a work in progress. Then you've got the owl, which stands for wisdom and secrecy, the ability to see things in the dark that others can't. The chevron, that's all about military authority and force. And of course, you have the pentagram and the number 666, which are tied directly to occultism and black magic.
Now let's see how these symbols supposedly pop up in the real world. We're going to zoom in on what is probably the single most famous piece of evidence in the entire Illuminati theory, the US $1 bill.
Okay, this is where things get really wild for believers. Right there on the back of the dollar, you've got that unfinished pyramid, which they say represents elite bloodlines and their ongoing plan. Floating above it is the all-seeing eye, a classic symbol of surveillance. And get this, if you look super closely, theorists swear you can find a tiny, hidden owl, which they say is a nod to the infamous and very secretive Bohemian Grove retreat for the rich and powerful.
But here's the real kicker. Right below the pyramid, printed for everyone to see, are the words Novus Ordo Seclorum. The official translation is New Order of the Ages, but you probably know it by its more famous interpretation, a New World Order. The claim is that their ultimate goal, a single one-world government, is literally printed on our money.
So, where did this group even come from? How did it all supposedly start? Let's take a step back and trace the alleged history of this secret society. The story that's been pieced together is pretty incredible. It supposedly all kicks off way back in 1307 with the fall of the Knights Templar, whose members allegedly just went underground. Flash forward a few centuries to 1776, when a German law professor named Adam Weishaupt forms the Bavarian Illuminati. His goal, they say, was to infiltrate powerful groups like the Freemasons and push his own agenda from the inside. Now, they were officially banned in 1785, but the theory claims it was too late. Their influence had already started to spread across the globe.
And don't think these were just fringe fears. This idea reached the absolute highest levels of power. I mean, check out this quote from George Washington. He's basically acknowledging that he knows about the Illuminati's ideas, their diabolical tenets, and that they're spreading in America. He just makes a point to say he doesn't believe the Freemasons themselves were the ones responsible for it. Pretty wild, right?
So fast forward to today. How does this ancient secret society supposedly operate now? Well, the theory claims it's all through a modern network of influencers, celebrities, politicians, media moguls who are constantly flashing their symbols and pushing their agenda right in our faces.
All right, let's break down the secret language of hand signs you might have seen. You've got the watcher, that's when someone covers one eye, supposedly signaling they're an initiate who's monitoring the public. The classic rock-on gesture, they call that the disruptor, and it's said to show devotion to a goat-headed figure called the Baphomet. The OK sign is for the prospect. See how the fingers form 3 sixes? It shows they're willing to join. And finally, that diamond shape made with the hands, that signals senior status, a high-ranking member of the whole operation.
So we've gone pretty deep down the rabbit hole here. We've seen the symbols, we have heard the alleged history, but now it's time to pull back and ask, is this all just a massive coincidence, or is it a sign of control? Let's take a serious look at the other side of the story.
Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question at the heart of all this. How much of this stuff is actually real?
Let's go back to that dollar bill and really compare the two interpretations side by side. On the one hand, the theory says the all-seeing eye is a Masonic symbol of surveillance, but the official story, it represents divine providence watching over America. That unfinished pyramid, it could be their secret ongoing project, or it could just be a symbol for the country's strength and future growth. And that tiny hidden owl, it could be a link to a secret society, sure, or it could just be a weird anti-counterfeiting mark that some people think looks like a spider.
And there are some other really important counterarguments to think about. For starters, those symbols from the Great Seal weren't even put on the dollar bill until 1935. Also, the only confirmed Freemason on the design committees was Benjamin Franklin. And guess what? All of his ideas were shot down. As for all those celebrities, skeptics argue they're not signaling allegiance to a secret society. They're just trying to look cool or edgy. And historically, yeah, the Bavarian Illuminati was a real thing, but it was a tiny, short-lived group that was outlawed centuries ago.
But maybe the answer isn't so black and white. One of the sources for this explainer puts it in a really interesting way. They said, I don't think there's a group called the Illuminati, but I do think there's a group of elites working together acting like the Illuminati. And that's a key distinction, right? It separates the specific historical organization from the much broader, more modern idea of elite control.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. So we'll leave you with one final question to chew on. Even if a secret society called the Illuminati doesn't actually exist today, is it possible that other powerful groups are using the exact same playbook of symbols and hidden influence to shape our world? Now that is the real question at the heart of it all.